All right, guys, a new chapter of Free to Choose is chapter 9, The Cure for Inflation. This is the introduction. Not too long, about a page and a half, I think. About a page and like a fifth or a quarter. So, chapter 9, The Cure for Inflation of Free to Choose. The Cure for Inflation, the introduction. Compare two rectangles of paper of about the same size. One is mostly green on the back side and has a picture of Abraham Lincoln on the front side, which also has the number 5 on each of its corners in some printing. You can exchange this piece of paper for some quantity of food, clothing, or other goods. People will willingly make the trade. The other piece of paper, perhaps cut from a glossy magazine, may also have a picture, some numbers, and some printing on its face. It may also be colored green on its back, yet it is fit only to light the fire. Whence the difference? The printing on the $5 bill gives no answer. It simply says Federal Reserve Note, the United States of America, $5, and in similar print, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Until not very many years ago, the words will promise to pay were included between the United States of America and $5. That seemed to explain the difference between the two pieces of paper, but it meant only that if you had gone to a Federal Reserve Bank and asked the teller to redeem the promise, he would have given you 5 identical pieces of paper, except that the number 1 took the place of the number 5, and George Washington's picture the place of Abraham Lincoln's. If you had then asked the teller to pay the $1 promised by one of these pieces of paper, he would have given you coins, which, if you had melted them down, despite its being illegal to do so, would have sold for less than $1 as metal. The present wording is at least more candid if equally unrevealing. The legal tender quality means that the government will accept the pieces of paper in discharge of debts and taxes due to itself, and that the courts will regard them as discharging debts stated in dollars. Why should they also be accepted by private persons in private transactions in exchange for goods and services? He's asking, why should they be accepted by private persons in private transactions in exchange for goods and services? The short answer is that each person accepts them because he is confident that others will. That's it, huh? The pieces of green paper have value because everybody thinks they have value. Interesting. The short answer is that each person accepts them because he is confident that others will. Yeah, it's done. Donezo. Everybody thinks they have value because in his experience they have had value. The United States could not operate at more than a small fraction of its present level of productivity without a common and widely accepted medium of exchange. Or at most a small number of such media, yet the existence of a common and widely accepted medium of exchange rests on a convention that owes its existence to the mutual acceptance of what, from the one point of view, is a fiction. Let me read that again. I'm sorry. United States could not operate at more than a small fraction of its present level of productivity without a common and widely accepted medium of exchange. Because we do a job for that thing of value, so we could go buy that thing of value, right? You have value, then you have worth. What is something worth? It's value to you. What is something value? It's like it's exchange value. Or at most a small number of such media. Yet the existence of a common and widely accepted medium of exchange rests on a convention that owes its existence to the mutual acceptance of what, from one point of view, is a fiction. The convention or the fiction is no fragile thing. Give me a second, guys. Oh, yeah, I got a fucking highlighter here. So the convention or the fiction is no fragile thing. On the contrary, the value of having a common money is so great that people will stick to the fiction even under extreme provocation. Whence, as we shall see, comes part of the gain that issuers of the money can derive from inflation. And hence the temptation to inflate. Comes part of the gain that issuers of the money can derive from inflation, and hence the temptation to inflate. Interesting. But neither is the fiction indestructible. The phrase not worth a continental is a reminder of how that fiction was destroyed for the constitutional currency issued in excessive amount by the U.S. Continental Congress to finance the American Revolution. Though the value of money rests on a fiction, money serves an extraordinarily useful economic function. Yet it is also a veil. The real forces that determine the wealth of a nation are the capacities of its citizens, their industry and ingenuity, the sources at their command, their mode of economic and political organization, and the like. The real forces that determine the wealth of a nation are the capacities of its citizens, their industry and ingenuity, the resources at their command, their mode of economic and political organization, and the like. Let me underline all that. We got a philosopher come here. As John Stuart Mill wrote more than a century ago, there cannot, in short, be intrinsically a more insignificant thing in the economy of society than money. There cannot, in short, be intrinsically a more insignificant thing in the economy of society than money, except in the character of a contrivance for sparing time and labor. It is a machine for doing quickly and commodiously what would be done, though less quickly and commodiously, without it. So money is the incentive, right? And like many other kinds of machinery, it only exerts a distinct and independent influence of its own when it gets out of order. Perfectly true as a description of the role of money. Provided we recognize that society possesses hardly any other contrivance that can do more damage when it gets out of order. Interesting, right? What's contrivance mean? Contrivance. 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 The use or skill to bring something about or create something. To contrive something, right? Contrivance. Contrivance. The use of skill to bring something about or create something. It's like being a adroit, right? You go with your hands and your brain and your body, or something, or about or create something, or create something. Um. Okay. Cool. So we have already discussed one example, the Great Depression, when money got out of order through too sharp a reduction in its quantity. When money got out of order through too sharp a reduction in its quantity. So, giving you like a quick why the Great Depression occurred. The Great. So the money became scarce. It became a shortage. The Great Depression. Almost done right here. This chapter discusses the opposite and more common way in which money has gotten out of order through too sharp an increase in quantity, which is inflation. Too much money, it lowers the value of money. Inflation, right here. Inflation. Interesting, right? Inflation. So the depression was too sharp a decrease in money, and inflation is too sharp an increase of money, which inflates the money, and the more you have something, the less valuable it is, right?